melting!
Oh,
Oh, shit!
Oh!
Oh! You're killing me! Oh.
Hey everybody, it's Greg. I'm sitting here in my room where I play Dungeons & Dragons, and I wanted to show you these I built. This was the very first thing I built, based on Black Magic Crafts terrain. And you can see they're nice. There's even some pieces that are missing. I've used them so much. But I've come a long way since then, so I've actually upped my game, and as you can see, some of these terrain pieces are really cool. I'm going to show you how to build them. Let's do it. Okay, the first thing you're going to need is a big sheet of XPS foam. I got mine at Home Depot. And just draw out some random shapes in any kind of shape you want. I like to have some canyons, some long thin ones, some big ones to stack up. And then you're just going to use a hot wire cutter and cut out the pieces. Simple as that. It doesn't really matter if you're precise. It doesn't matter if you stay in the lines, because you're ultimately going to texture the sides anyway. So just pick some random pieces and get to work. So to start making the cliffs from the mountains, I started by using my fingers, and I just pulled off random pieces of foam. The last time I did this, I used nothing but a knife, but I found that the combination of both of them is going to look really, really good. Wait till you see. Just try and get it in random shapes and interesting little things. And look at the texture on that. Look at the walls. It comes out really good when you do both. And now I found this substance that my brother hooked me up with. And watch this. It just melts the foam like there's no tomorrow and creates an interesting little lava type rock. Way more powerful than acetone or anything else I've used. But I decided to do a test. First I cut out a little sample piece and I put some on. And once I figured out the ratios, it just looks incredible. Look at some of the texture on this mountain. But of course you gotta be careful when you're using this type of substance, because this can happen. Okay, you ready, Aaron? Full on melting. Here we go.
The full melt job! Woo! Woo! Go, Greg, melt it! Oh, shit! Oh! You're killing me! Oh.
Leave it to Aaron.
I got way too excited. Loser! Full on test, here it goes. We're going to try it again.
This is what my skin feels like right now because you spilled on me.
Sorry, Greg. Sorry. Oh, the full wipe. Keep it away from your fingers, Greg. Away from your fingers, for God's sake. Show right in the camera. Look at that.
Look at that. That looks like a lava rock. And that piece, after a while, just melted into nothing. So I took all my pieces home and I started the process of creating my mountain. It's a lot of work, but when you're doing something like this, it's better to just do them all at the same time, because they'll match. So I took everything outside after I cut them up, and I just brushed on just a little bit here and there to create the texture on top of the rocks. There was even a couple spots where I might have gotten a little bit too much right in there, but it still looks great, and you'll see the end product in a little bit. Look at that texture, it's incredible. Now I wanted to show you in real time what it looks like when you put this stuff on and just glop it on. It's like acid for blood. The chemical just keeps on going, so the more you put on, eventually this piece just dissolved literally into nothing. It was just a big ball of mush. So now what I did is I wanted to hit the tops of these mountains as if maybe animals were creating tracks, or people with horse and carriage were riding on the tops of these mountains. So I just wanted to do it in kind of a chaotic pattern all over the top, just to create interesting textures. I am going to do other stuff with the top, but I thought it was great to create some of these textures, some of the lava type rock on the top as well. And then I just dripped a little bit of this substance on various places, because I'm going to make that into a little water feature. And once I'm done with the tops, it just needed a base coat of black. So I took the Mod Podge with some black paint and coated everything with black. And you need to get in the crevices, and that's kind of hard with this lava type rock structure. So you got to get just a cheap brush and just get in there to all the nooks and crannies. I even took a dry brush later and wiped off some of the goop right here. Look at that. When it's dry, it just looks incredible. Look at the sides, look at the texture you got going on. So the next phase is going to be a heavy dry brush. I use nutmeg brown and a just cheap old brush. And this is kind of a heavier dry brush. You do want to be able to see the black showing through. So load up your brush there and then kind of wipe it off. Wipe off the big globs. And just give it a kind of a heavier dry brush. But like I said, it is okay to see the black coming through because you really want all the variations of the rock to show through. And after I'm done with the sides, you can see here I decided to hit the top a little bit and make sure that the top had some brown as well. So after you're done with the brown, the next phase is going to be a pewter gray. And it's going to be, again, a kind of heavier dry brush, but a little lighter than the brown. Because you want the black and the brown to show through at the same time. Again, we're going for all this multicolored rock. If you've ever been camping in the mountains, you can see the rocks have lots of different colors to them. So I hit up all my different rocks with a pewter gray. And I wanted to make sure I can see all the colors underneath. When it's dry, it just comes out incredible. Even the part that I put a little too much came out better than I thought it was going to. Look at that texture. Now I grabbed a little granite gray. And this is going to be a true dry brush. Just a little tiny bit. Get it all off on the paper towel. And I'm just going to hit the highlights. Just to pop out some of those mountains and valleys. Now, when you're dry brushing, it's good to go against the grain, but when I did some of the stuff that had the lava rock on it, I found that going up and down actually looked really neat. Look at that. The different sides of the mountain actually have different types of terrain. You'll be able to turn them around modular. So I hit the tops with the same thing, and then once they were all dry, I was moving on to the next phase, which was my wash. And this is just a homemade wash of black paint, water, and a little dish soap. And then I wanted a little green wash as well that I'm going to use, some dark green, to put inside some of the canyons and crevices there. And along with the green, I decided to make a kind of a red wash. And I used some burnt sienna, and then I used some brilliant red from Reaper Bones, and I mixed that all together just to get a little kind of a red rock tone to it. Now, whenever I make a wash, I always make sure to test it to make sure it's the right consistency. It actually took me a little while to get this, to get the color the way I wanted it to be. I also added a little dish soap for some flow aid. Now this was a tester piece, but I wanted to see what it would look like in the rock, so I just dabbed a little bit in some of the canyons. And I also did that with the red, just to kind of see what it would look like with the different colors. Now when you're doing this type of thing, you also want to wipe off some of the excess that drips down to the bottom. Now this color was looking a little orange to me, so I actually decided to make up a new batch, and I started with the brilliant red and water and poured in some of my old batch to see if it would match. So there was the old one. I like that a lot better. It's just subtle. I like that a lot better. I don't know if you can see that, but it's very subtle. And I think that's going to be the way to go. So once I had the washes the way I wanted them, I hit every piece with the black wash first. When you're doing a wash, you can literally just spread it over and let it soak down, seep down into the cracks and crevices. These are all dry. They look phenomenal. I am actually going to hit them with a little bit of green wash and a little bit of red wash. I'm just going to hit some of the parts in the middle. That's not going to be it's just going to be every once in a while. Actually going to take and just soak up the pools. Bottom. You can see there, it's just giving it a little bit of variance. a little bit of variation. And I'm going to do the same with the green. I'm just going to give it a little bit of green every once in a while in some of the canyons. Try not to use the same canyons that I used for the red. See how it's going to give it a nice level tone. Let's see what this looks like if I do a little bit on top. If I don't like it, oh well. I already don't like it. I already don't like it. Nope, I've got other plans for the top. Look at some of the textures in the rock after these are dry. They just look incredible on every side, and the green and the red really just shows through. Just a little type of variation in the rock structures. They look great. So now I'm going to take a little antique white. Really any white will do, but I'm going to just do a little dry brush and pop out some of the really high edges. Just make it pop out, especially in the lava rock. Now, for this little water structure, I decided to go with a dark blue, a turquoise blue, and a green. And I started by painting the deep recesses with the dark blue. And then I grabbed the turquoise blue and I kind of made a little transition and pulled up some of the darker blue and made the tops. And then I used the green to just go around the top and the corners. So as you can see, I'm not actually cleaning my brush between colors. I'm just wiping it off because it does help with the transitions. So now, after I'm done with all that, I have these 2 bags of rocks and sand from the dollar store made for fish tanks. And they're great because they're already pre-painted in black. So I'm going to take a little glue, just PVA glue, and I'm going to spread it on various areas. And I'm going to pour out some of the rocks onto the terrain and kind of make little piles of rocks that are stuck to the top. I don't want them all over the place. I just want little tiny piles. And then I took some more glue, and I'm just experimenting here. And I'm going to make this area sand. So I have some rocks and some sand. This didn't come out exactly the way I wanted, but you can definitely experiment to your own taste. This one is all sand, and then I dry brushed over it. That one came out kind of cool. That kind of blends in, but I'm still not. I love the rock I love the texture of the rock, but I'm not sure that's the way to go. I don't think the top of the mountain would be all rocky like that. I'm kind of leaning more toward this. And once I put some other flocking and other things in there, I think that's going to be really nice. Next, I grabbed some UV resin. And this stuff is nice because all you need is a black light. Once you pour it in there, and it is good to go. It dries in like just moments. So just a little toothpick to move everything around. And I took my light, and you can actually see it start smoking immediately. And it only takes about a minute for it to completely cure and dry. Look at that, it's incredible. It does leave a couple of bubbles in there with the type of terrain, but I'm not too worried about it. So the next thing I did was I took some PVA glue and just made a little area around the water and a little bit down the side of the mountain because I wanted this to be moss. I wanted it to look like possibly it is just kind of overgrown. I'm using Woodland Scenic's Fine Turf, but you can use whatever you want. And, you know, I find this little shaker knob annoying every time I use it. It's better to just pour it on. Just pour it on and let it dry. So I pour it on, and next thing I need to do is just let it dry. Took everything outside and waited a few hours, and it was all dry. Now the cleanup phase. Once everything was dry, I just took a brush and I brushed out some of those water features, and I realized that the color doesn't show through that well, so I made up a little blue wash. And I just hit the tops a little to make sure that the water shines through. And last but not least, I decided to do a little tiny dry brush of brown on the top of the mountains just to give it a little bit of variation. I think it looks fantastic. So here they are all laid out on my table. They look great. Every one came out a little bit different. Some have more stone, some have more dirt, but you can see you can use them in any situation you want. And now to put it into a little perspective, I wanted to show you my old terrain that I made way back when versus my new terrain that I made this time. I think there's a huge difference, but please let me know what you guys think in the comments. I absolutely love the way these came out. Thank you guys for watching, and hey, if you like what we're doing, please like and subscribe and share with your friends. We're trying to grow this channel, and I will be back to show you some more cool terrain pieces for Dungeons & Dragons. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.